Hey, with your evening story channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it. Camille, come on. Let's go. Do you know how much fun it's going to be? Emily looked at her friend pleadingly. No, I can't. Stephen and I are going to the movies tonight. And distorted God is not going anywhere. You're Stephen. Who needs him except, you name it. I'm sick, or whatever it is Christopher's party's going to be. He's asked about you a few times. Camille's eyes went wide. Emily, I'm actually dating Stephen, and we're getting married. And you're telling me about Christopher? Oh yeah, we all know you're getting married. Everyone's looking for something. Good life. And you're going to marry Stephen. Tell me, what's in store for you? 8 snotty kids. Tattered wallpaper, a drunken husband after every paycheck. Emily, Stephen doesn't drink. He's not drinking yet, and he's got no future. You're comparing Stephen to Christopher. What's your Stephen? He's a college graduate fixing cars, and he's happy. Have you seen his hands? I've seen the hands of a man who works. What good is his work? What's he given you that's worthwhile? While you two are dating? Well, except for ice cream. Oh, you're such an idiot. Emily pretended to leave. Camille asked, what time does it start? 7 o'clock. By the way, Christopher said that if you don't have anything on, he can come and pick you up. Camille blushed. No need. I'll do it myself. Emily smiled triumphantly and left. And Camille started to scold herself with the last words. How could she do that? No, she wasn't going anywhere. And her hand was already dialing Stephen's number. He seemed pleased. Don't be upset. We'll go another day. I just got the car. If I make it by morning, I'll get paid very well. You realize we need the money now. I understand, of course. Kisses. She cast out and exhaled. Well, it was a lot simpler than that. The evening did turn out to be a lot of fun. The champagne was flowing. Christopher never left her side. Camille enjoyed catching the envious glances of the girls. She woke up late. Her head was splitting. She picked up her phone. Wow, 7 missed calls from Stephen. She quickly called back. Stephen, I'm sorry, I was asleep. I didn't hear. It's all right, Camille, it's just a thing. I'm going into the army. Wait a minute, like the army. You've already been. Well, it's because I've been that they're taking me. Well, sometimes things happen that you have to help. Camille sat on the bed. I understand why it's you. It's not just me. A lot of guys got summonses. So I'm leaving tomorrow. When Camille found out that Stephen was going to a so-called hotspot, she was determined not to let him go. Let the others go, but you and I were going to get married. He hugged her. What are you talking about? What do you mean, others? And what am I going to hide behind their backs? And it won't be for long. It's only 6 months. And I'll be back, I promise. Camille stood outside the enlistment office while Stephen did some paperwork. It was really crowded. Camille, what are you doing here? She turned around. Christopher was standing in front of her. He stood out from everyone else here. No grayness in his clothes, everything bright and fashionable. Though why wonder? His dad owned the biggest mall in town. I'm waiting for Stephen. Did he get a summons too? Yeah, he got one for you too. Yeah, they sent it. When do you have to go? Christopher looked at the girl in surprise. Go where? Well, to the service. Christopher laughed. Well, how could you think that I would even go anywhere? Do I have nothing else to do? Let those who have no money fight. I'm fine here. Did you pay me off? Of course I did. Well, I gotta go. Today we're going to the mountains. I wanted to call you, but you have Stephen call me. How will you see your soldier off? It seemed to Camille that Christopher wanted to call Stephen by another word, but at the last moment he changed the word to a word not offensive. He left and Camille kept looking where he had disappeared. Camille called Christopher 3 days later. Oh, Camille, hi. How are you? I'm okay. But you can't tell from your voice. You're still crying over your trooper. You want to go on a boat ride? Camille did cry for 2 days. Stephen, when they were saying goodbye, took her face in his hands and said, "You just wait for me. I'll come quickly and make you the happiest woman in the world." She sobbed, saying she would die without him. Stephen laughed and said, "Just try it." Christopher came to pick her up an hour later. She got into the car in silence. He looked at her carefully. Did he look at her? Oh no, it doesn't work that way. All the fish in the lake would die from that look. So he handed her a bottle of wine, and Camille looked at him in surprise. "What are you looking at?" "It's good French wine." "I love it. I'd keep you company, but I don't like to drive like this." Camille thought for a while and decided she really needed to relax a little. The wine was delicious and the music was nice, and Christopher was so charming. They didn't ride for long. After about an hour, docked at some kind of wooden marina. "Oh, where are we?" "It's Camille's quiet place." Christopher helped her onto the boardwalk and then led her up the steps. Soon Camille saw the house. It wasn't very big, but it was beautiful, like a fairy tale. Everything about the place looked like a fairy tale. They set a table in the courtyard. Christopher lit the brazier. Camille sat in the rocking chair and thought that she and Stephen never went out. He worked all the time. She was studying. Yes, there were dreams of the future, but only dreams. And still it all started with the words, "Let's earn, buy, and go." And now she realized there were people next to whom you can just put down this boring stretch of time and immediately start living. She herself did not realize at what moment Christopher was next to her. They talked about love, about poetry. Then Camille asked how they would get home. And Christopher asked, "Do you really want to go home and cry for your Stephen? Or do you really want to stay here with me and not think about anything, just enjoy it? You know I like you very much, and I can give you what your Stephen will never give you in his life. Think before you answer." Christopher went into the house, and Camille sat in the chair and wanted to cry. I mean, how is she any worse than anyone else? Why can someone else afford all this and she can't? Why in her mind does she want to do something bad? Is it wrong to be happy? And Stephen? People fall in love, get married, and split up. It's just life. She got up, put the beautiful plate Christopher had covered her with on the edge of the chair, and followed him into the house. Stephen had not called for 2 months. Camille even relaxed, especially since there was no time to be bored. The wedding preparations were in full swing. It was the kind of wedding one could only dream of. But Camille honestly didn't even dream about it. The call came early in the morning. Exactly on the day of the wedding, Camille was still asleep. She held the phone to her ear without opening her eyes. "Yes, Camille, 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 I missed you." The sleep was gone. Camille sat up abruptly in bed. "Stephen, Camille, come on. You don't seem happy to hear from me." "Of course I am." "How are you?" There was a pause on the other end. "Camille, there's something different about you." Camille decided there was no point in hiding anything. She'd find out anyway. So let it be sooner rather than later. "Stephen, I'm getting married. I'm getting married today. You can't blame me, can you?" It just happened. There was a short beep on the other end. Camille stared at the phone for a while, then carefully put it down and wiped her palms. That was it. Now there's nothing to worry about. She knew Stephen well. They would probably never cross paths again. Family life was not quite what the girl had expected. No, for the first few months it was fine. Christopher was so affectionate. They went on a wedding trip. Camille finally got to see the sea in person instead of on TV. She was just enjoying herself. When they got back, Christopher gave her a car and insisted she go to law school. In fact, he just showered her with gifts. The first time he cheated on her was 7 months after the wedding. Camille found out about it by accident. Christopher didn't deny it. In fact, when she came at him with fists, he punched her so hard that Camille couldn't go outside for a week. She decided she was going to file for divorce. Christopher spent the whole week apologizing to her. "You'll understand, it's just so hard for me to readjust." You know, I've had a fun life. I hit you out of confusion, out of fear. I thought you were going to leave me. I can't live with that. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. She believed it. And how could she not when Christopher spoke so beautifully, showered her with flowers and gifts? It was another 6 months before the second affair. It was almost exactly the same as the first time. Only Camille didn't throw her fist at Christopher. He hit her first. Then there were more cheating. Camille had already lost count of them, but she realized she didn't want to live in poverty, and she couldn't. So she just accepted it. Or rather, made one for herself. Now their family was more or less decent. Camille stayed out of Christopher's life, and he pretended that everything was fine and that he loved Camille. Christopher never asked why she was late or where she had been. He was always satisfied with the answer that she was out with her girlfriends. But Camille knew for sure that if the truth came out about how and with whom she was healing her wounds, she would be in trouble. Camille was flying home. She had a fight with her lover. For some reason, he thought she should support him. She'd only been married 3 years, but already she felt overloaded with it all. Frankly, she wanted a quiet husband and kids. But that's on the one hand. On the other hand, she realized that she could not live like ordinary people. She was used to money, used to the fact that everyone jumped on their hind legs in front of her. She was used to paying people to keep quiet or do what she wanted. No, she can't do it any other way. So she'll pretend, like Christopher, that they're doing just fine. Camille was thinking so hard that she didn't notice the car in front of her stopped for an emergency. The car was small and Camille's SUV was so big. She hit the brakes, but alas, as the girl from the car was being taken away in an ambulance to Camille, a man in a uniform approached. Camille needs to come with us to the station for a medical evaluation. What else? I'm not going anywhere. Camille knew she could smell the wine a mile away, but it was always a matter of deciding how much to pay you. The staff looked at each other, and one of them said Camille would have to go through with the new boss, so make arrangements with him. That was something new. There wasn't a single police officer who didn't know her or her husband's family. Let's go, let's see who the new guy is. On the way, she called her husband. She didn't sound happy, but she'd get over it. She'd get away from her mistress for her lawfully wedded wife. Okay, I got it. I'll be right there. How strong are you with this woman? I don't know. I took her away in an ambulance. Well, at least she's alive. Camille sighed quietly. Christopher will come and solve everything. She always did. True, most of the time she solved her problems herself. But sometimes her husband had to be involved. They're at the station. Why don't you sit down for a while? Will you be invited soon? Come on, I've got work to do. And if you don't know how to work, I'll teach you. Camille's mood was getting worse by the minute. That chicken got distracted in the middle of the road, and it's my fault. Now, half an hour had passed, and no one was calling her. Camille called Christopher. I'm on my way. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. Camille got up and walked over to the girl who was typing something on the computer. How long do I have to wait here? The girl looked at her fearfully. As soon as I can, I'll tell you. I'm asking how long I have to sit here. Go ask your boss. Does he want trouble? Camille couldn't hold back any longer. She was yelling. So the girl jumped up in fright. The door to the office opened and a man came out to them. What's going on here, Stephen? There's a woman who's not happy. Camille turned around slowly. No, it couldn't be. No. Stephen was standing in front of her. What people? I wondered who Camille was that was putting the fear of my staff. Stephen? No, not Stephen. Stephen, please come in. Cindy, get me the medical officer and witnesses. You know, the usual. Wait, no witnesses. Christopher appeared at the door and his lawyer with him. Camille breathed a sigh of relief. I understand this is your husband. Very well, I have questions for him too. Christopher was taken aback. What questions for me? I'm going to show you a videotape of you changing the license plates on their car. As you understand, you will have to give an explanation. The lawyer asked Christopher, who am I defending? You or your spouse? Me, of course, you idiot. There may be many spouses, but I'm the only one. How about you, Stephen? You realize this was a real misunderstanding. Stephen smiled. Please, all of you in Cindy's office, come on. You'll have a lot of typing to do. Camille looked at her husband and realized it was payback time.